to have the understanding that if you're upset, if you're triggered, you are not present with what's happening in front of you. You're gone. You're in the past, because that's where it comes from, right? There's a really great little one-liner. If you're hysterical, it's historical. Right? If you're upset, you're in the past. You're not present with the people that are in front of you, with the people that you're leading, if you are upset. It's a big one, right? Because let's face it, in our lives as leaders or aspiring leaders, there's a lot of opportunity for reaction. And nothing good, nothing powerful, nothing transformational, right, ever comes from being in a place of reaction. You've got to get yourself out of reaction. Yeah, and I got some epic tools to help you do that. So conflict. Number 4 is conflict. Who hates conflict? Right, I'm gonna put your hand up if you hate conflict. If you would rather just be somewhere else, like don't want to deal with it, right? Who hates it? Who just doesn't like conflict, right? Okay, so there's a good few of you. Yeah, and zero judgment, man. I would avoid it like the plague. If there was conflict, I would be getting somewhere else. If there's conflict going on between my kids, there's conflict going on in my team, there's conflict going on in my group, in my community, right? The old me would I would take myself out. I would avoid it. But if you hate conflict and you can't be in conflict as a leader, you're screwed. Right? You're screwed. You've got to learn how to be in conflict. You've got to learn how to powerfully be in conflict. And we're back into the realm of definitions. Right? So let's just do another round of definitions from that quiet space, right? Just allowing your eyes to close, because we're gonna get a definition here. Conflict is what? Conflict is blank. Fill the blank. Conflict is separation. Painful. Being judged. Messy, fighting, terrifying. Oh, yeah. Bad. Yep. Okay. So we got all of those. Yeah. Violence. Yeah. 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 Okay. So now look at what we've got sitting here. I'm getting goosebumps by all, because when we've got this running unconsciously, that's the definition that we're coming from. When conflict starts to come up, which it will, there is no question. You cannot avoid conflict. And trust me, I spent my entire life trying to avoid conflict. Who do I need to please? How do I need to control my environment so that conflict doesn't happen? And if you're doing that in your role as a leader, you're robbing yourself and you're robbing the people that you're leading. Because conflict isn't bad. It's an opportunity for growth. And if we can't see that it's an opportunity for growth because we have all these disempowered definitions running the show without bringing them up and shining a light on them, which is what we just did, right? We brought them up, we shone a light on it. Oh my God, all of this stuff that was in the chat box, terrifying, right? Bad. If we bring that up and we know that we've got that running, then we can start to bring ourselves into a different way of dealing with conflict, of being able to be with conflict. I used to have to sit on my hands and hold my tongue, bite my tongue, when there was like conflict going on between my boys, just even at home, right? Because I would be wanting to jump in, intervene, and shut it down. I don't do that anymore because I'm robbing them of their brotherhood of working this shit out. And I'm also robbing the opportunity to find the gold which sits on the other side of the conflict. And this is the alchemy, right? This is why I call myself an alchemist. The gold is on the other side if we're willing to sit in the shit, right? In the lead, in the uncomfortability, in the conflict. So the question is, when you get triggered, right? When you get upset, what do you do? What do you do? So pop that in the chat box. What do you do when you get triggered, when you get upset? Do you withdraw? Do you freeze? Right? Do you react? Because we want to learn how to take action, how to expand, how to be able to be in the conflict, how to see it as an opportunity for growth. Not all the time. I mean, we're human, right? We're not perfect robots, remember? We're human. So knowing what we do, clam up and freeze, yeah. Breathe. That is a, oof. Yeah, it works really well when I do that. Creating the space to pause, right? Just to pause. That for me has been an absolute game changer. And it's beautiful that you brought that interest in, because to pause and then what I committed to was stretching that pause, right? Like creating it first and then just, okay, how can I stretch that? So that moment of pause before I fly into a reaction or, take action in a way that isn't going to serve. Monkey mind doing loops. Yeah. Hide and stress out. Freeze, play nice, Jasmine. That's a really good reflection. Shut down. Yep. Try to think it through and respond correctly. There might be a bit of need to be perfect there, Leonie. Yeah, or opposite, lash out, withdraw, try and work it out. Yeah, work it out, figure it out. What am I going to do? Yeah, and then it all becomes a head game. Yep. Lots of rules. Yeah, beautiful. That's awesome stuff. Really powerful to see this stuff. Okay, so we've got to learn how to be in conflict. Right? We've got to learn how to navigate our emotion, right? Thoughts and feelings, what we do when we react. Right? And as I said, I have some powerful, powerful awareness tools, approaches in the work that I bring. The challenge that's coming up has a VIP upgrade where you can get a couple of programs. Empowered Emotion is one of those. What this does is it helps you learn how to deal with the way that you feel so that you can hold yourself powerfully in conflict. Because if you can't do that, you are missing the opportunities to grow. So many of us have not been taught how to set strong, clear, consistent rules and boundaries in ourselves for our personal lives, let alone our lives as leaders. And you have to have next level boundaries in your role as a leader. Not just good boundaries, next level boundaries. And you have to understand what boundaries are and what they're not. The other side is the over boundary. Are you bound up and armored up like a tank, right? So protected. Having parents that are really strict, that, or flip between the two. I call that the jellyfish, right? The jellyfish that, you have no boundaries. And then when you feel like your boundaries are crossed, you flip over to the other side and boundary up like a tank. Boundaries are not about protection. They're not about protection. And this is one of the things that when we first start learning about boundaries and actually installing boundaries, setting boundaries for ourselves, we think they're about protection. We're conditioned to believe that boundaries are there to keep us safe from harm. And then we become these tanks, right? And you remember what I said about we want our people that we're leading to be able to feel us. They can't feel us if we're an armored tank. If we have so many walls up protecting ourselves, they can't access us. They can't feel our heart. They can't feel our passion. They can't feel our truth because we are not showing it. So we've been conditioned to believe that boundaries are there to keep us safe from harm, and they're not. Right? They're not. And we have to reframe this. We have to come to a different definition. The way that I teach boundaries is that they're in our back pocket for when we need them. And we can then whip them out, right? And what they're there for is to invite me to stay open, to remain open, and to open further. Because that is what we want as a leader. We don't want to be an armored tank. We want to be open. But to do that, we have to understand the truth of what a boundary is. So put this in your pipe and smoke it. Because when this landed for me, it was like, oh, why did nobody ever tell me about this, right? A boundary is something you tell someone that you will do, and it requires the other person to do nothing. It's something that you tell someone you will do. If you keep talking to me like that on my phone conversation, I'm going to hang the phone up. That's a boundary. Asking them to stop talking to you like that is not a boundary. It's a request. They are two different things. One has you in your power. The other one is you giving your power away to that other person and giving it to them. Here's my power. Please take care of it for me. A request is something very different, right? Most people are making requests of others and then getting angry and saying that their boundaries have been crossed. And it's not true. Your boundaries are your responsibility and no one else's. If you are tolerating bullshit, it means that you are not taking responsibility for your boundaries, giving your power away. This is powerful stuff, right? Pop a P in the chat box for powerful if you think this is powerful. This is next level stuff. And it's changed my life, right? In my role as a person, as a partner, as a mother, as a leader. It's powerful stuff. I also have a mini program on boundaries. If you want it, let me know and I will get you details for that. It's not part of the challenge upgrade, but it is available if it is something that will serve you. Drowning in our own dysfunctional shitstorm. Ain't that the truth? Woo. Okay, and control mode. I just want to put a little sprinkling about control mode because this is something that's really been coming up for me lately in terms of understanding what happens, what we do when we're in protection mode, when we're coming from our wounding, right? The parts of ourselves that need to come in and keep us safe. When we're in control mode, this is when these other aspects, these other parts of ourselves are at the helm rather than the empowered, creator, limitless aspect of who you are. Right? And it means that we've put on the armor, we've taken out the sword, we're in fight. It means that you're out of your heart. And this is parts work. If you've heard of parts work, it's internal family systems. And there are many parts that come in to take control because we're in fear. Right? We have the exiles, who are the younger parts of ourselves, right? The little boy in us, the little girl in us, that hold the emotions, the vulnerabilities, the needs, and the memories that went ignored and unresolved and went into exile, right? We put them away because there was no space for us to process those needs or the trauma that we experienced. Right? And then we have the managers. The managers are the ones that keep going, right? That force, that push, that hustle. And they help put the exiles aside so that the functioning part of us can get on with life, right? Put the big girl pants on and the big boy pants on and get on with it. And managers can be unhealthy and healthy, right? Like being able to put your big girl pants on and your big boy pants on, because sometimes we got to do that. It's a powerful skill. But the constant pressure or perfectionism or burden form of managing that adds stress is not helpful. And then we have the next level, right? The firefighters. They're the extreme versions of the managers, and they act more impulsively. They engage from like desperation to make any hurt or pain go away. This is where the addictive behaviors come in, the completely shutting down, the disassociating, the disconnecting from ourselves, from others, right? The self-destruction, the self-sabotage. All of this is to keep the exiles, that small wounded part of ourselves, away, right? Because they're fearful, the firefighters are fearful of what will emerge if they arise. And when you show up as a leader, the shit's going to get real. And it's meant to. Yeah. I know some people are stepping further and further into their leadership and it's getting gnarly in there and they think they're doing something wrong and they're not. They're not, right? If you're stepping into leadership and the shit's getting real, celebrate. Celebrate, because it means you're doing the work, right? It's meant to happen so that you can continue to transform and shift and evolve. It's a beautiful thing. May not feel like it. Unfuck your leadership. So what can you do? All right, we just talked about 10 landmines, and we're going to talk about the 5 codes now. You can commit to shining a light on these landmines and become aware when you're stepping on them, and have your support leaders become aware too. They're going to have their own version as well, and you can co-reflect back to them. You can choose to shift your focus and value something very different. This is the new wave of leadership. And don't give yourself any other choice but to do that. Invest in empowering in yourself and your leadership. Right? And I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about time, I'm talking about energy. Right? I've got a free 8-day challenge coming your way. Yeah, that's some time, that's some energy to commit. Take radical self-responsibility and ownership. This is about creating a very different leadership technology in relationship with yourself, the people that you lead, and the environments you lead in. And here's the kicker. You actually have to live by it. That was another big lesson for me. I can't just teach it. No, you can't. This is what you have to live and lead by. Okay, so we got 5 codes. 5 codes for courageous, connected leadership. You've got to show up. You've got to shift your position, and fast, right? To be able to shift your position, which I'll talk about a bit more in a moment. You have to be unapologetically authentic. And everyone throws that word around. Oh, you got to be authentic. You got to be unapologetically authentic. You can't just be authentic anymore. Right? You got to bring the truth of who you are forward. You got to have radical integrity. I'm not just talking about, oh yeah, you got to, do the thing even when no one's watching. I'm talking about radical integrity in your life and how you hold yourself powerfully every single day to the best of your ability, because we are human. We're going to get it wrong. We're going to fuck it up. Integrity is knowing that. And how fast can you come back? and shift your position and hold your center again, be in your center again. And vulnerability, Jazz, you brought up vulnerability. For me, this is the key for the new relationship technology. You've got to learn how to be vulnerable. This is how you redefine your relationship with leadership. If you're bold enough to get messy and live it. You got to be bold here, right? What this is about is how fast can you change your state, right? Your position. How fast can you do it? It's one of the codes. So I just gave you a little taster, right? A little taster of how we can empower ourselves out of where we are, not just with thoughts, not just with consciousness, because that is only part of the picture. Okay, so what comes up for you when I say the word authenticity? Right, just write in the chat box. What is authenticity? Vulnerability, openness, real and raw. Yeah, sister. You say it. My truth. Yeah. Beautiful. What lights you up? Your heart. Yeah. Authenticity. Being open, vulnerable. Yeah. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. So we're talking about unapologetic authenticity. So we know what that is, right? Doesn't mean that we bring it. Because it can be scary to bring your truth, your heart, right? Your spark, your individuality, your uniqueness. Yeah, because we're so terrified of not fitting in, of not belonging. So we need to be unapologetic about bringing it. Yeah, finding out what's getting in our way, the landmines, so that we can choose to be unapologetically authentic. Integrity is the grown-up version of authenticity. Yeah, let that land. When we express ourselves and I want to be seen in the truth of who I am, right? It's like, that is a very different thing than being in integrity. Integrity is the grown-up version of authenticity. Are you living what you stand for even when no one's watching? Are you living it? Or are you getting swept away by your thoughts and feelings? Right? Trapped by those other landmines. And we're human. We cannot possibly say yes to living everything we stand for at all times, right? We're human beings. We're fallible. We're messy, right? We make mistakes. We're imperfect. We fall off the horse. We fuck up. But how fast can you bring yourself back into integrity when you know you're out of it? Right? Are you walking your walk? Are you talking your talk? Or are you just talking it and not living it, not leading by it? Right? We're human. Yes, we are. And we aspire to be unapologetically authentic and aspire to have radical integrity. So we aspire to. If we have to have it all the time, every second, then we're back in the need to be perfect, right? We have to allow for our humanness, right? Which leads us beautifully to code number 5, vulnerability. Right? What is vulnerability to you? Yeah, pop that in the chat box. Because this is a huge piece. You know what I'm reading, don't you, Tristan? You know that I'm reading that. Oh my God. Where have you been all my life? Honestly, I can't believe I've only just met you like 2 weeks ago or something. No fucks given. I'm me, bitches. You are so in my world. Okay, I'm no longer hiding, owning your shit. Yes, Sarah Kay. Open and raw honesty, honest and humble, speaking from the heart, allowing the sensitive side, right? It's allowing yourself to get it wrong, to be a human, to fuck it up, right? Vulnerability is about getting messy. It's about being raw, real. It's about getting it wrong. It's about being okay with your humanness, with your wounding, about where you've come from, about your dark side, your shadow. It's about being okay with all of that and not being afraid to show all of that so that you can give the ones you lead permission to show theirs too. That's what vulnerability is. Yeah, people just think it's, oh, I need to be able to cry in front of my people. Yeah, that and all of what I just said. It's about bringing the truth of who you are and being okay to share that. And, you know, what's the old saying? Warts and all, right? The messy and the magic, Sarah Kay, right? Vulnerability. It's the key. It's the key code of the codes, right? It's the core of the codes. Oh, there we go. I've got another C. It's the core of the codes to connected, courageous leadership. Oh, fuck. I kill myself sometimes. Vulnerability in leadership is what the world needs, right? This is what it needs. And you got to know what your biggest fears are in being vulnerable. Because for most of us, being vulnerable wasn't safe. Yeah, it was bad. That's how it was defined. Yeah, and you might be sitting in that definition. We've been doing a lot around definitions. I'm big on definitions because they're huge. They create our reality of what your definition of vulnerable is, right? And what your fear is that might happen if you are vulnerable, especially as a leader, right? I'm going to get torn down. I'm going to get mauled. I'm going to get cancelled. You know, all of this, right? My people will judge me. These are the fears, right? Is it what actually happens? Fuck no, it's not. The opposite happens. So what I've been talking about are 5 codes that make up a code. And you've got to have a code. If you're a leader and you don't know what your code is, then you're leading by a default code, right? A default structure, default patterns. And it's probably why you're here in this masterclass, right? You've got to have a code. You've got to live by it and you've got to lead by it. And that code creates the bonus code. The code that you choose to live by, right? All of these pieces that I've talked about creates the culture of the people that you lead, right? It's like the operating system. So I got this beautiful definition because at the moment, my right-hand man is creating a document around our culture that has the code in it. It creates the culture. And this is the definition that he gave me. I'm going to read it. Culture is the pulse beneath the surface, the electric current that seduces hearts and minds into sync. It's the unspoken language of desire and belonging, the way we move together, breathe together, build together. It shapes what we crave, what we chase, and how we taste life collectively. That's what culture is. And if you're leading, you are creating a culture unconsciously or consciously. And what I'm inviting you to do through this new leadership technology that we're going to be deep diving into in the challenge is to start creating your code and start creating your culture so that you can do it consciously. Boom. Because this is what's going to up-level your leadership.